Look at this. This is the Apple dream. A $3,000 machine being used like a $300 Chromebook. You're clicking on icons, you're dragging windows, having your dock here at the bottom that magnifies as you go over your applications, or searching the App Store for a GUI app that feels just right. Stop using your Mac like a peasant. You didn't just buy a shiny aluminum toy. You bought a world-class Unix kernel, but Apple has you trapped in a Fisher-Price interface because they don't think you can handle the truth. macOS is at its best when you treat it like a Linux rig. I have over 1,300 stars on my dotfiles for a reason. I don't use macOS. I use it as a host for my scripts. And today, I'm going to show you how to kill the GUI. We're going to talk about why the Stream Deck is expensive bloatware, how to manage Windows with Yabai without ever disabling zip, and why if an app doesn't have a config file, it does not belong on your system. This isn't just a cool setup video. This is how to put your hipster looks, Starbucks coffee, and virginity aside and reclaim your macOS gigachad status. Before we get into the demos, we need to talk about the aesthetic desk setup plague. Specifically, that little plastic box with 15 glowing buttons that costs like over $150. The Stream Deck. Look, if you like pretty icons, cool. But if you're a macOS gigalord, why are you adding proprietary drivers, extra cables, and a dedicated piece of hardware to do a job your keyboard already does better? My keyboard is my Stream Deck. It has more layers, more speed, and it costs me exactly $0 in extra bloat. Well, the keyboard was a bit expensive, but you get the point. I use SKHD. It's a simple, lightweight hotkey daemon for macOS. With one plain text file, version controlled in my dots, of course, I can map my F keys to do everything a Stream Deck does, but faster. Take a look at this and pay attention to the hands in my keyboard. So one shortcut, I'm in the browser. Another shortcut, I'm back in the Kitty terminal. Another shortcut, my mic is muted. You will be able to see that on the top left corner. One shortcut, I switch to my notes session. Another shortcut, I switch to my daily notes. One shortcut, I switch to my main camera. Another shortcut, I'm back on my main screen. One shortcut, I bring up the FCF menu for my scripts. Stop wasting time searching for stuff. Do what you need to do with a single key map. But Link, I don't have the mental capacity to learn all these shortcuts, so you should get a Chromebook then. This is where the Peasant OS really shows its teeth. Apple wants you to configure everything through a GUI. They want you to click buttons, toggle switches, and export your configuration like if it's 2015. I hate GUI-only apps, but I still have to use them, so shut the fuck up. If I can't configure the app in a text file that I can symlink to my dotfiles, I don't want it in my machine. Why? Because when I get a new Mac, I don't want to spend 6 hours clicking my way back to productivity. I want to run brew bundle, all my dots, and be back at 100% in 1 hour. This is my plea to Mac developers. Stop building apps for Starbucks normies. Give us a .conf file. Help macOS evolve from a consumer accessory into the rock-solid Unix distro it actually is. I know, the furry friend is ready to type its comments. I should switch to Next Darwin, but I'm scared because I don't understand it. And if I'm honest, it's too gigachatty for me. But being fair to Mac devs, I understand that normies are the ones that bring the money in. They actually pay for stuff, and they usually want to use GUIs. So my respect if you create normie Mac apps to make a living. And also a special shout out to the macOS open source developers that put their time to develop gigachad apps managed via config files. But remember, my open source community is not just about being free. These guys pay with their lives, so if you like what they do, remember to sponsor them or support them. Now, I'm not gonna bore you with a slow tutorial on how to copy paste. If you haven't installed Homebrew, you're not ready yet. So step one is install Brew. It's the only way to manage a Mac without feeling like a peasant. Short summary, this basically replaces your App Store. Here's the command, you copy and paste it in your terminal. Step 2, install Yabai, but make sure to start first. This is the engine that manages your Windows. And notice that the same gigalord that created Yabai also created SKHD. We're gonna talk about it in a little while. Here are the instructions. You can get it using the installer script, or you can do it via Homebrew as shown here. You've probably heard a scary warning. You need to disable system integrity protection. Most people stop there. They're afraid of breaking their new Mac. But here's the truth. You don't need to disable zip to get a pro workflow. I have ran Yabai on work computers for years without ever touching the kernel, because even if you want, you cannot. The difference is that I switch to apps directly instead of switching to workspaces. So that way you don't see the hideous macOS animation when you're switching to a different workspace. Step 3, SKHD. This is the brain that listens to your keyboard. It's a hotkey demon. It basically waits for a key combination and runs a command or script in response. If you don't understand how it all ties together, I'll explain it in a little while. Here is the brew installation instructions as well and how to start the service. There's other macOS window managers out there, like this one, Aerospace, which is an i3-like tiling window manager for macOS. There's also this new one called Rift. It's written in Rust, so it seems to be more performant. Not exactly sure. I haven't tried Rift, but if you have, please let me know how your experience has been in the comments. Now, with all that said, let's look at the config that actually make this feel like Linux. The secret is how you use it. Most Linux purists, they want tiles, which are tiny little windows everywhere. Personally, I hate tiles. To me, they're useless. Unless you're a hawk, your apps end up too small to actually read. That's for people that want to look like they're hacking, not people who are actually working. I use stack mode. It gives me the speed of a tiling window manager with the screen real estate of a native app. Everything stays full screen, but it's managed by the system, not my mouse. The only exception, live streaming. This is the only time I want tiles to keep my chat and my monitors side by side. Everything else stays in the stack. Now, let's talk about the real gigalord power. Managing your exceptions. In a peasant workflow, you're constantly dragging windows between desktops like a manual laborer. In my system, the OS does the heavy lifting for me. By default, every single app I open is sent to desktop 1. You can see that line here. This keeps everything centralized, organized, and I don't have to think about where stuff is. But I have a set of very specific rules for the apps that matter. This isn't just about being organized, it's about security as well. When I'm live streaming, the last thing that I want is for a sensitive email or a private Discord message to pop up on my main screen. So I wrote a small little script that detects how many monitors are plugged in. If I'm on a single display, everything stays on my main workspace. But the second I plug in my external monitor, Yabai identifies the display with the fewest spaces. It labels that display as my non-stream space, and it instantly teleports Discord, my mail, and my password manager to that other monitor. So the point is, I don't have to remember to hide my sensitive data. The system does it for me. And I get it. It may feel overwhelming at first, and you probably don't know about programming. I'm not a programmer myself either. But remember, with AI nowadays, if you copy and paste my config into it, it's going to explain to you what's going on. This is the level of automation you get when you stop using a Starbucks OS and start using a rig. Your setup shouldn't just look cool. It should be an extension of your professional workflow. You want to keep your private data off your screen without thinking about it? you need these rules. Now, a reality check for the no mouse lifestyle. Look at the key combination that shows up at the bottom when I switch to a different session or if I switch to a different application. I know it looks like Emacs shortcuts, but it's not. If you try to run this on a flat keyboard, you're gonna have a very bad time. So my secret to all this wizardry is layers. When I'm at my desk on the Toucan keyboard, I'm using CMK to handle all the heavy lifting for me. But when I'm on the go and I'm using the MacBook built-in keyboard, I'm using another application called Kanata. Kanata is a cross-platform keyboard remapper that bridges the gap between Peasant hardware and gigalord software. It's what allows me to turn my caps lock key into a hyper key so that I can trigger these shortcuts without breaking my fingers like Emacs users do. It's an absolute pain in the dick to configure from scratch, but I explain how to install Kanata, how to configure it in many other videos, so you can go and check those out as well. Now, I need to clarify how these hotkeys actually reach the system. When I'm on my desk, my CMK keyboard is the one calling these weird symbols that you see here at the bottom of the screen, the weird key combinations. That is CMK in action. So those weird key combinations, you can see them here in the SKHD file. This is what listens to all of those and performs different actions, executes scripts. Do you need a keyboard like this one to do all this? No, not at all. When I'm using my MacBook built-in keyboard, Kanata, as you can see here, is the one that is picking up my internal keyboard. And this is the tool that is performing all the different actions, executing the scripts, the same as SKHD, but you don't need a special keyboard for that. So instead of calling SKHD as a middleman, I have Kanata execute my shell scripts directly. So it's just two different ways or two different paths to the same destination. Absolute control without the mouse. And remember, the keyboard is actually one of the most important tools in my workflow because it controls everything. How I switch to applications directly, how I control OBS when I'm doing live streams, I switch to the different scenes, how I perform different actions in my system, like if I want to mute it, if I want to configure OBS, if I want to change my color scheme, pretty much everything is done through my keyboard. And this is why we use Unix, because we want to automate the boring stuff and stay in the flow. Look, you can keep clicking your way through macOS. You can keep buying $150 plastic boxes to do what a script does for free. Or you can start treating your machine like the high-end Unix rig that it actually is. Remember, my dotfiles are open. If you like them, star them. The Yabai RC file, the SKHD config, the Python scripts that I use, it's all there. You don't have to be a senior dev to start. Just install brew, all the dots, and stop letting Apple tell you how to work. Stop being a peasant, become a lord. A huge thank you to the CEO YouTube member, Web23. You can check out my boy at web23.com. Thanks for the support, Rumen. I also want to thank the rest of the YouTube members. Remember, if you have questions, I live stream some Sundays, not all of them, but if you have questions, you can join and ask them there. Remember, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you like the channel, subscribe and all that stuff. Hope this was useful. And I'll see you in the next video.